The Spector, Part 2, The Next Day. Tuesday, October 27th, 1998. Beep, 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 beep. I slapped my hand on top of my alarm clock that's set next to my bed. 6 a.m. always feels like it comes earlier and earlier every day. I wiped my eyes and let out a big yawn and slowly sat up from my bed, still wearing my clothes from yesterday. I stood up from my bed and walked over to my closet to grab new clothes for the day. I sifted through the drawers and decided on a black t-shirt that was a size too big for me and a pair of dark acid wash Levi jeans. I opened my closet door to find a maroon hoodie hung up, and I yanked it off the hanger and set everything on my bed. I opened my bedroom door and made my way down the hallway to do my usual business, a shower, brushing my teeth, and applying deodorant. I finished this with a splash of CK1 cologne. I slothed my way back to my room and put on my outfit for the day. Before leaving, I slung my backpack over my shoulders and peeked out the window to find an overcast day once again, a usual occurrence this time of the year. I closed my blinds and grabbed my Discman. I exchanged out In Utero for a mixed CD that Johnny made me. On the front of the CD it said Rock and Punk. I stuck the disc into my CD player and walked out of my room. When I made my way into the hallway, I saw my father enjoying a nice cup of coffee at his typical place, the kitchen table. I'm not sure where my mom or sister was, but it probably wasn't important. As I made my way past him, I heard him say, "Hey Mark, stop for a second. I need to talk to you." I turned around and said, "Hey Dad." Clears my throat. "What's going on?" "I'm sure you saw the news last night, and I know you probably know what happened. Your mom and I are worried, to say the least. If you hear anything or see anything that you're not sure about," he paused, "just make sure you stay vigilant and protect your little sister. This whole thing has her all riled up." "Sure, Dad, I will. Will you be home tonight?" "No," he said. "Your mom and I have to work late again. We should be home around 10:30 tonight. I know we haven't been around much lately, but..." "It's okay, Dad." I cut him off. "I understand," I said. "I have to catch the bus, but we'll talk more later. Have a good day." "You too, Marky. Have a good day, and be careful." "I will," I said as I made my way to the front door. I opened the door and made my way towards the bus stop, which took me right past the Johnston's house. As I made my way down the street, I saw the police car still parked out front, with an officer planted in the front seat. I continued down the street until I made my way to the bus stop. I took out my CD player, unwound my headphones, and plugged them in. I clicked play. I heard the sounds of drums pounding away and a bass line kicking in saying, "Nice guys finish last. You're running out of gas. Your sympathy will get you left behind." About 15 minutes go by and I see the bus rounding the corner of the street and making its way towards me. I guess Jen got a ride today, I thought. As the bus stopped and opened its doors, it was particularly empty. I know it was one of the first stops in the morning, but this is even emptier than usual. "Good morning," I said to Mr. Finch, the person who has been taking me to school every day for the past few years. He shut the door behind me and began on his way. "Where's Holly?" he asked politely. "Oh, Holly's been under the weather the last few days, some type of cold or something. I didn't see her this morning, so I guess she's staying home today." "I hope she feels better," Mr. Finch said as he rounded out of my neighborhood. I guess a lot of kids were missing today, or they got rides with their parents because the bus was particularly empty today. Stops that would normally have like 4 to 5 students at them would either be empty or only had 1 or 2. I didn't mind it though. It was nice to have a row to myself and not have to share it with somebody else. Or even worse, one of those jock types with their egotistical wannabe Backstreet Boys looks. I wouldn't mind riding with Jen again. She seemed nice. I wonder if the news of what happened last night had everyone spooked. I know it kind of freaked me out, but I had to hold it together for Holly. As we made the final stretch to the school, what I saw I was not expecting. There were news vans lined up and down the street, several police cars and the usual, school buses and cars from people who drove themselves in. The bus stopped in its usual place, and I, along with the rest of my fellow student body, made our way off. When I stepped off the bus, I tried to make my way to the front door, but it was a circus outside. I made my way through the crowd when I ran into a familiar face. It was Jen. "Hey, Jen, I'm sorry." She grabbed me and hugged me. "Sorry," she said. "I just really needed one of those." I said, "It's fine. Is everything okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. It's just scary. People dead and students missing. Are you okay? I didn't get a message from you last night. Did you hear anything new?" "Sorry, I was working on my history paper, but Johnny told me that the parents were, well, it wasn't pretty. How about you?" "Nothing more than that," she replied. The bell rang, meaning we had 10 minutes to get to class. "Hey, where's your homeroom?" "It's in E Hall," she said. "Mine's in F Hall. Come on, I'll walk you to class." "Oh, Marky, aren't you the gentleman?" she said, snickering. "Shut up, Jen. Come on." I cracked a smile and we both chuckled. We made our way through the ocean of people and started towards homeroom. As we walked past, we passed Kyle's locker, which kids had already started stuffing with notes and writing messages on. "I hope he's okay," she said. "Me too," I replied. "How'd you get to school today? I didn't see you at the bus stop." "Oh, I got a ride with my parents. We still have some packing and stuff to do at the old house. So last night, after the cops left, we made our way over there, and I ended up crashing there," Jen said. "Oh, okay, cool," I replied. I branched off as we got close to F Hall. "I'll see you later, Jen," I said. "Hey," she exclaimed. "What are you doing after school today?" "I'm not sure. Why? Want to meet up or maybe hang out for a bit? I can borrow my mom's car. Her and my dad are going to be at the old house most of the day, packing up and cleaning up, stuff like that." "Sure. What do you want to do?" I asked. "I don't know, but we'll catch up after school." "Okay, cool." I walked down F Hall and made my way into homeroom. I sat at my desk and pulled out my folder titled English Lit. I placed that on my desk along with my pencil. Students began to file in behind me, and at 8:05, the bell rang. Our teacher, Miss Griffin, made her way into the front of the class. "Good morning, students. I'm sure as we all know, a tragedy took place last night, and one of our fellow classmates has not been found yet. Please stay vigilant, be aware of your surroundings. Our principal, Miss Stein, has informed us that there is going to be an emergency assembly today at 10 a.m. Please, students, if you know where Kyle Johnston is, let your parents, a teacher, or a member of the local authorities know. If anyone needs anything, my door is always open. These are difficult times. Now, let's open our books to page 106. Class began. I looked around the room at my fellow classmates as they began flipping their pages and awaiting instructions. I did the same. As the bell rang at 9:05, I packed up my belongings and slung my backpack over my shoulders. As I began to make my way out of class, Miss Griffin stopped me. "Mr. Stone, a word with you, please?" "Yes, Miss Griffin," I said nervously. She looked over and waited for the rest of the students to make their way out. "How are you doing with all of this?" she said. "I'm okay. Worried about Kyle," I replied. "I know that it's been a while since, well, you know. I just wanted to let you know that I'm here for you, and if you need anything, you know where to find me." "Thank you, Miss Griffin. I'll let you know." "Okay, now get off to class. You don't want to be late." "Thank you," I said as I made my way out the door. I have a feeling that's going to happen a lot today. I wish people would just let me move past that. I know it's only been a couple of years since that happened to Shane, but forget it. I made my way through the hustle and bustle until I made it to my next class, life science. Wouldn't you know it, another teacher talking about what happened and saying the same thing again. At 9:55, Mr. Huck said, "Okay, students, we need to make our way to the auditorium for this assembly. Please leave your bags here, as there'll be time for you to come back and grab them before lunch." We scurried out of the room and made our way to the auditorium. We walked through the giant doors leading onto the basketball court and up onto the bleachers. "Mark!" I heard a voice call out. It was Jen. She made a motioning with her hand to come here. I walked over to her and took a seat next to her. "Hey," I said as I sat down. "What do you think this is about?" she said. "I'm not sure, but I have a feeling it's—" "Good morning, students," Miss Stein's voice echoed in the auditorium. "Please quiet down, quiet down. We have Chief Slater here from the Downey Police Department, along with Sheriff Locke. They have a message for you, students. Please give them your undivided attention." Principal Stein handed the microphone over to Sheriff Locke, who cleared his throat. "Good morning, Downey High. As you know, an event occurred last night, and we have a student missing. Now, Chief Slater and I have been working hand in hand together to try to find the culprit for what has happened. If you hear anything or know anything about the whereabouts of Kyle Johnston, please give either of us a call or let a member of the faculty, a teacher, a parent, or any adult know so that the information can be relayed to the sheriff's office or to Downey PD. I will now be handing the microphone over to Chief Slater." Sheriff Locke handed the microphone over to Chief Slater and stood a few feet back. "As Sheriff Locke mentioned, we do not want you to be alarmed, and all we want to do is find Kyle and bring the perpetrator of all this awful crime to justice. The Downey Police Department has several resources looking into this, including the Sheriff's Office and the State Patrol. We all just want to bring Kyle home safely. We have patrols everywhere looking for Kyle, and with that said, there'll be a search party put together, and we'll be meeting at Hyde Park this afternoon. If you would like to join in the efforts, please arrive at Hyde Park at 5 p.m. wearing appropriate footwear, appropriate clothing, and a flashlight. If you or anyone you know has any information involving the whereabouts of Kyle or additional information that would assist law enforcement in their efforts, please come forward to any of the aforementioned people. We have faced tragedy here before, and it takes the whole community to come together in times like these to ensure that justice is paid and the town is safe. Thank you, students, and please be safe." He handed the microphone back to Miss Stein. "Thank you, students, and please remain vigilant. If anyone needs anything, there are additional resources available throughout the day." She proceeded to dismiss us. As we stood up, Jen said, "Do you want to?" "Do I want to what?" I replied to Jen. "Do you want to go to Hyde Park this afternoon to look?" Before I could respond, a jock muscled in. "Nah, he probably doesn't. I mean, he's got no guts anyway. Look what happened to his older brother. You know what I'm talking about, Mark. The one who—" I pushed the jock, who turned out to be Derek Maker, an asshole on the football team. "Shut up, Derek." "Oh, you want to take it there, huh? You want to line up just like your older brother? I bet you're just like him, a freak." I don't know what came over me, but I cocked my arm back and swung my now balled-up fist at him as hard as I could, connecting with the lower part of his jaw. "This has nothing to do with Shane," I shouted as Sheriff Locke and Chief Slater began running up the bleachers toward us. Before Derek had a chance to respond, I felt a hand grab my arm and pull me away, and I saw the look on Jen's face. She was frightened. "What are you doing, son?" Sheriff Locke asked sternly. I, Derek stood up. "He was looking to end up like his older brother, Sheriff." "Shut up," I said. Next thing you know, Derek spit right in my face. "You know the Stone family, the rejects?" His jock friend Adam pushed Derek. "Shut up, Derek. Leave him alone." The spit began to run down my hair and onto my face. Sheriff Locke loosened his grip. I turned away and stomped past the officers down the bleachers, passing Miss Stein. "Mark, stop!" I heard Jen shout. I made my way out of the auditorium and began walking off. I heard Miss Stein say, "Mark," shortly followed by Jen. "Mark, wait!" I didn't care. I continued to walk down the hall. I pushed the gates open and let it slam behind me and began walking home. As I made the trek down the block, I heard police sirens behind me. It was Chief Slater. He rolled down his window and said, "Get in the car, son." I ignored him. He drove past me a little ways and pulled the car over. He opened the door and stepped out with his tall stature and authoritative stance. "I just want to talk, son. Get in the car." "No, I'll not get in the car. There's nothing to talk about." "Listen, son, I would have done the same thing you did in your situation. You're not in any trouble. I just want to talk. I paused for a second, stepped off the curb, and made my way around his car. I tried to open the passenger door, but it was locked. Chief Slater slid back in and opened the door from the inside. Sorry, Mark. It's so the bad guys don't get out. I plopped down in the passenger seat and Chief Slater handed me a napkin. For your face, he said calmly. I took the napkin out of his hand and began to wipe off the remaining remnants of spit. Mark, you're not in trouble. Even though you probably should be. You rocked him pretty good, Chief Slater said. Yeah, well, he deserved what he got, I replied. Yeah, maybe he did, but that doesn't make it right. You know, your family has been through a lot. I don't need to tell you that. But that doesn't mean you have to go through this alone. I cannot imagine what it would have been like, losing a friend and a brother, but I know that you're better than this. Violence is never the answer. You know this, right? He said. Yes, sir, I replied. Come on, let's take you home. I think you've had enough for one day, with everything going on. He shifted the car into drive and pulled away from the curb. We made our way down the streets until we made it onto my own. It's the fifth house on the left, right? Chief Slater asked. Yes, sir, I replied. We pulled onto the street next to my house and pulled up to the curb. I opened the door, and before I could step out, Chief Slater said, Hey, Mark, if you need anything, don't hesitate to call. He extended his hand out and handed me a business card. Thank you, Chief Slater, and thank you for the ride. No problem, he said. Take care of yourself and ice down that right hand, huh? He chuckled, and I cracked a smile. He pulled off and made his way down the street. I walked up to the front door and knocked, since my keys were still in my backpack, which was sitting back in Mr. Huck's second period science class. Holly opened the door slightly, then pulled it all the way open. What are you doing home? She asked. I don't want to talk about it, as I stepped past her. I made my way through the kitchen and down the hall. I opened the bathroom door and turned on the sink. I began to splash the lukewarm water against my face a few times, then shut the sink off and grabbed my towel, still damp from my shower only a few hours ago. What happened, Mark? Holly said. Nothing, Holly. It's just not been a good day, I exclaimed as I pulled my now dry face away from the towel. Okay, she said, and began to cough a little bit. I'm sorry, Holly, I said, knowing she was just concerned. I'll be okay, I promise. I made some food if you want anything. Thank you, but not right now, I said. She stepped away and walked back toward the living room. I walked out of the bathroom, down the hall, and went into my room, kicking my shoes off and plopping onto the bed. I buried my face in my hands for a moment, then laid back onto the bed. A few hours went by, and I guess I must have passed out. I woke up to Holly's voice saying, Mark, someone's at the door for you. Be there in a second, I said. I looked at my alarm clock. It was 4 p.m. I stood up from my bed and slowly made my way down the hall. I saw Holly standing at the door. Here he comes, she said to the anonymous person. I took the door and swung it open further to see Jen standing there with my backpack. Hey, I said. Hey, she replied. Look, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It's okay, Mark. I just wanted to bring you your bag and see if you still wanted to go join me at Hyde Park. I have to swing by our old house, and I figured we could pick up Johnny, if you wanted to. Sure, I said. Let me grab a few things, and I'll call Johnny. Would you like to come in? Sure, she said as she stepped inside. She followed me down the hall and into my room. She sat down at my desk. Wow, cool setup. I like that Resident Evil poster. Thanks, I said as I sat on my bed and slipped on my shoes. Let me ping Johnny and let him know we're coming. She turned on my screen and pulled up AIM. Bury me alive 82, I said as she looked at the short list of names that popped up on there. She began clicking away as I laced up my shoes. I heard a notification chime. He's in, she said as I stood up from my bed. Cool. He's over off Strode Street, I said. Yeah, I know where that is. It's not far from Hyde, right? Yeah, I said. We made our way out of my room and down the hall. Holly stopped us. "Hi, I'm Holly, Mark's sister," she said. "Hi, Holly," Jen said back. "I'm Jen. We're going to join the search party at Hyde Park. Do you want to come?" "Sure," she said, "but I'm a little bit under the weather, so maybe I shouldn't." "No worries," Jen said. "I hope you feel better." I told Holly we would be back later and made our way out to the car. It was a red Volvo station wagon. "Nice wheels," I said jokingly. "Thanks. It's no Mustang, but it gets us around." "That's fair," I said. We got in and she started the engine. "So, what happened?" "With what?" I said. "To your brother," she replied. "It's kind of a long story and kind of better left for another time." "Well, I got time," she said. I looked at Jen. "Well, in that case, about 2 years ago, my older brother Shane, he died." "What happened?" she said as she shifted the car into drive. "We don't exactly know. Prior to the accident, he was just a normal guy. He would go to school, tease Holly and I, and, normal older brother things. Then one day he started saying something was watching him. Like while he slept and while he worked and at home and at school, and we thought it was just like night terrors, like Nightmare on Elm Street or something. He was really into those movies. We thought he was just messing around until I froze. I realized that I hadn't talked about this since it happened. "It's okay, Mark. You can tell me, but only if you want to," Jen said. "It's just a lot, and it's hard to talk about," I replied softly. She grabbed my hand. "Well, I'm here," she said softly. "Thank you," I said. She smiled, looked around, and pulled the car away from the curb and proceeded down the street.